Hey folks, Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and something interesting just came out. I think today, maybe. No, I guess it wasn't today. It was Tuesday, and I'm just hearing about it now. But I haven't really heard anybody talking about it, and I think there's much larger implications than what people are letting on. Pathfinder Adventure Path Abomination Vaults 5e, one of Pathfinder's most popular and exciting campaigns, comes to 5e at last. What? Do you guys see this logo, right? Paizo? Paizo, the creators of Pathfinder, what most people would consider to be the biggest competitor in terms of the high fantasy RPG, right? Usually you're talked about Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder. That's kind of how it goes. In fact, Pathfinder splintered off from Dungeons and Dragons in the first place. Paizo used to publish for Wizards of the Coast back in the 3.5 days, maybe even before that. And then when 4th edition didn't come out, or when it came out rather, and people didn't love it, that led to the production of Pathfinder using the 5th edition, the 3.5 open game license. And then obviously Pathfinder 1E grew and grew and grew to the point where I think about 3 years ago, they decided to release a 2nd edition of Pathfinder. And some people in my comments specifically will tell you that it's so great. And my general conception or perception of it, rather, from what I've seen, is it didn't do so hot. Like it's popular, sure, but it's not 5e popular, not even close. And I feel like some people, I don't know if people were just turned off by the idea of another edition of Pathfinder, or 5th edition has just been doing so well and they just didn't want to invest in the 2nd edition. Now, I can also say, a large portion of the popularity we have for 5e, obviously we know comes from Critical Role, and it has that popularity factor of it. But Pathfinder 2e is out. I've seen that they've been producing new stuff for them. We did have the weird Fallout whole bad PR situation with Paizo in August or September of last year. But Paizo has been continuing to soldier on here with their 2nd edition of Pathfinder. But now, as of again, Tuesday, coming out, pre-order, it says expected approximately the 16th of November, 2022. It also says pre-order expected October 2022. But one of their most popular Pathfinder adventures, they're now choosing to adjust the rules and say, hey, you know how we made this really great Pathfinder game for our Pathfinder system? We're going to remove all of the Pathfinder part of it and make it for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. When your biggest competitor in the terms of fantasy RPG stuff decides it's probably a good idea to make our adventure, that was apparently one of our most famous ones, in our competitor system, things have to not be going well, I assume. Because that means you are looking for the money, right? I mean, it will obviously, they're charging, we'll go back to the website here. They're charging $59.99 for this, so it's the cost of a regular adventure. Actually, $10 more than an official D&D adventure. I happen to have Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep right here, and it retails for $49.95. So to get an official D&D adventure, one, even in this instance, that's Critical Role branded, it will be $10 cheaper than this Pathfinder Adventure Path converted to 5e. So they're charging more. Now, I can't speak to Pathfinder Adventure Path because I've never played one. So perhaps it's significantly more. You're getting a ton of content, maybe more content. It does say contains typical Pathfinder action and adventure, but then presents several adult themes. Here writes themes of suicide, ableism, body horror, and human experimentation. Before you begin, understand the player consent, including that of the game master, is vital to a safe and fun experience. You should talk to your players before beginning this. It says this complete compilation of the original Adventure Path campaign has been adapted to the newest version of the world's oldest RPG. Notice how when Wizards of the Coast references it, they refer to it as the world's greatest role-playing game, and when Pathfinder refers to it, they refer to it as the world's oldest role-playing game. You've heard about the quality and depth of Pathfinder campaigns for years. Now explore the Abomination Vaults yourself without having to learn a new game system. This just, it's just weird. I don't know how to explain it. But, you know, again, that would, I can't even think of a good correlation for it. You know, I mean, it's your direct competitor, and you're saying, hey, we better release our content, our game adventure content. We have to now fit it into the terms of the open game license for 5th edition. And we're going to release it out there into the world. So there are a ton of people who will go out and buy this and still have no interest in playing Pathfinder, but they'll continue to play 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and now they're just adapting Pathfinder content. And I feel like that, I feel like there's a couple of things going on here. One, Pathfinder is not doing as well as Paizo wants, and they need cash grab. So a simple thing, and I say simple, I don't know how easy it is to convert a Pathfinder adventure to a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition adventure. Maybe it's really easy, maybe it's really hard. If it's really easy, this is a blatant cash grab. Hey, we need some money, we're not doing so hot. Let's take all of our old content and just make it for Dungeons and Dragons and then release it out there at $10 more than a WotC adventure. Again, maybe it's like 3 times the size of Critical Role called the Netherdeep, and then that makes sense for the extra $10. Alternatively, they're not doing so well, and they're hoping Wizards of the Coast will buy them. Now, as we know, Wizards of the Coast has a big backing from Hasbro. Hasbro is all in on Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons. We've seen all of the reports from all of the variety of different things showing what D&D can do and what it kind of investments they're putting into it from Entertainment One, and Hasbro is, you know, clearly focusing on this. We've seen the changes, you know, the previous head of Wizards of the Coast is now becoming the CEO of Hasbro. Big changes, but D&D and Wizards of the Coast is on the forefront of this company. Maybe, and I don't necessarily think this is a good idea, but you could start getting into a monopoly effect where Wizards of the Coast has all of this money and they're just going to start buying up game studios. We've seen things happen, right? We just saw with Microsoft, right? Microsoft bought and Sony bought Bungie, and these companies are looking to buy out, third-party competitors and then just have all of that in-house so that you can guarantee you have that going forward. I mean, I think Microsoft bought Bethesda not that long ago as well. If Wizards of the Coast could buy out Paizo, they can basically say, well, no more Pathfinder, it's all Dungeons and Dragons, but now we have access to all of this content, everything that Paizo has ever produced, all of the classes, subclasses, magic items, monsters, miniatures, adventure paths, that's all now owned by us. We can now reproduce all of that, and we don't even have to do that much work. So if Paizo is hurting for money, looking to try and find a way to get Wizards of the Coast to buy them, maybe this is sort of a step in that right direction where you're saying, oh, hey, we can easily convert our content to 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. We'll show that we can do that. We'll make a little money for ourselves in the process and show to Wizards of the Coast, hey, buying us might not be a bad idea because we can do this. We can provide this for you. It's sort of like a, hey, look what we can do. And then maybe that leads to them buying them out. That's an option. And then again, that does potentially make things, what if they buy out Paizo as their biggest kind of, we'll call them a first party competitor, because Paizo is their own company producing stuff for their own system. Whereas you do have other third party competitors, or third party producers rather, like Cobalt Press and all these other ones, right? Wizards of the Coast, they do still produce stuff for 5th edition, which is Wizards of the Coast product. Eventually they could try to adopt that and buy them out as well. And then you'd have all of that content now is, considered first party. But buying out your competitor and then choosing to have them not use their system to produce all of their adventure paths, especially if you can retain some of the people from Paizo as well, this could be a really big turning point for RPGs, specifically again in this fantasy RPG genre. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Do you think this is just Pathfinder looking to make a quick buck by throwing, Pathfinder and Paizo saying, hey, look, we're going to produce our stuff for 5e? Because like I said, if it's not that difficult, you have the entire backlog of everything that's come out for Pathfinder that you can just convert to 5e. But I also feel like if you're Paizo, doesn't this kind of look a little bad, right? You're like, hey, we made all this cool stuff. We're now going to produce it in our competitor's system for money? Or I don't know. I mean, maybe they're doing it for the fans, right? I guess we can't argue with that if that's what the reason why they really just want to get people playing, seeing their adventure paths and playing their adventure paths. Because I doubt this is some really big convoluted scheme to get you to go play a Pathfinder adventure path in Dungeons and Dragons. And you'll be so invested in it that you're then going to stop playing Dungeons and Dragons and start playing Pathfinder. One of their key points on the website is play this for yourself without having to learn a new system. You're flat out saying, come play it in the game system don't learn a new one. I feel like you're not pushing people to Pathfinder. You're keeping people in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And honestly, it might have the inverse effect where your fans of Pathfinder who have liked Abomination Vaults in the past and have played through it and have always been curious about playing 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons are like, well, I already know the storyline. I could probably run it because I've already ran it once in Pathfinder. Let me try to run it in 5th edition. That'll be a great way for me to learn how to do 5e by staying with material that I'm familiar with. I really don't know what this means. I'm going to pick it up, right? Obviously, so I can check it out. But I'm very curious. If you're a Pathfinder fan or a D&D fan, what do you think this means for the future of the game? Is Paizo is this a move to try to get picked up by Wizards of the Coast? Is this maybe there's some back alley dealings where Wizards of the Coast is like, hey, produce Abomination Vaults for 5e. We'll give you some money. We'll have a little side contract. We'll see how it does. If it does well, we can continue working together in the future. Because Pathfinder, as of right now, they can do this with no issues, right? As long as they keep everything within the terms of the open game license. This is no different than me making my own 5th edition adventure and publishing it on Kickstarter. They can do this. It's just they're a much larger company doing this. So anyway, I'm starting to ramble now. So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, and I'll see you all next time.